It's that time again. Right, what have I got here? 10 degrees centigrade, which is about 50 Fahrenheit, 93% humidity, and the pressure is still very low, 998 millibars, very low. The flag is wrapped round the pole doing nothing. The cherry tree isn't moving. Nothing's happening out there at all. But the forecast today is torrential rain. Now, are they lying? I mean, the sun's out. It's a nice, patchy blue sky. It's a lovely day. Not particularly cold. Well, 10 degrees, I suppose, is a bit chilly, isn't it? But it's early in the morning, though. It's first thing in the morning. Beautiful day. Huge faux pas last Wednesday's midweek message. I'm telling you about Fawlty Towers. I said it's not 40, as in 40. It's Faulty. Wrong. Oh dear. Thank you for all those who have corrected me. It's not faulty as in a fault. It's faulty as in Fawlty. Basil Fawlty. Fawlty. Apologies. I don't know why I thought it was faulty as in fault. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. Well, you know that, don't you? I'm working on Sunday's podcast early this week. It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, so you're just about getting the midweek message now, which is wrong. Mr. Faulty as in fault, I don't know. Let's move on. Blue sky. No, it's not. It was. It changes with the wind, literally. 1 minute we've got sunshine. We've got sunshine now. Earlier they said rain all day. I don't know what's going on. I suppose it doesn't matter. I'm in here in the warm and dry. The seagulls are going mad, going ballistic. I don't know what's happening out there. They've probably seen a fox or something. They swoop down. They kind of dive bomb the foxes. They dive down just almost above the fox. Not too close, of course. Then they swoop up again. They turn, dive down again, just missing the fox, swoop up in the air again, and they just keep doing it until the fox disappears. If they get too close, of course, the fox will have them. Do you remember of that where am I thing I did? I was on an island in the middle of a lake. How did I get to the island and back without a boat, without swimming, without paddling, without wading, without going on a helicopter or being dropped off by a drone? Very simple. The lake was drying up. It's Swanbourne Lake in Arundel. Swanbourne Lake, Arundel. Look it up on the map. That's where I was. It dries up very, very quickly. If we don't have rain for a few weeks, the lake just disappears. And Trish and I actually walked out. There was a pathway about, 10 metres wide. No, not even that, 5 metres wide. A pathway which was perfectly dry. It was mud, but it was dry. And we walked out on the pathway from the shore out to the island. And of course, the rest of the island was surrounded by water. So that's where I was, Swanbourne Lake, Arundel. Quite a few of you got that right. Locals, of course, people that live locally recognise that straight away. And also, I'm always at Arundel, aren't I? So I think a lot of locals thought, well, where's he going to go? I mean, he's not going to go to Scotland, is he? He's not in North Wales. He's not in Betsy Coed in the middle of a lake or wherever. It's got to be local, which it is, of course. So that was good. That lake really does dry up. It's very shallow. The whole lake's quite shallow, except for the far end. Apparently, I think I mentioned this before, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about it. A German aircraft came down in the war into the lake and went underwater. Now that must be the far end of the lake. A friend of mine said it was, is it Heinkel aircraft? Because one year it got very, very dry. The water almost disappeared from the entire lake and uncovered the remains of the aircraft. How true that is, I don't know, but this is what my friend was telling me, and I've heard it from other sources. Thanks for that, Tony, if you're listening. So that's interesting. I looked at the far end of the lake after we got off the island. We walked to the far end of the lake, and it didn't look very deep. You could see the bottom. It's all crystal clear water. You could see the bottom, but there was one large area which was all weeds. I wonder whether that's quite deep there. I don't seem to be able to find much in the way of history. The tea house there, it looks like it was an old toll house, or it looks like someone lived there. I can't find what that is. If you look it up, all it says is tea rooms. Well, we know it's tea rooms. What was it originally? I shall have to persevere and find out what's going on there. I'd like to know what that was originally. And of course the whole place, the castle nearby is Arundel Castle, and the Duke of Norfolk, is it the Duke of Norfolk? Duke of something. He stays there. When the flag is up the top, full mast, he's at home. When it's half mast, he's not in the castle. There we are. There's some useless information for you. But thanks to everyone with all your suggestions where I was. Someone said out in the sea. I don't think they have trees and bushes out in the sea. Do they off the coast here? All we've got off the coast at Worthing is, I call them windmills. They're not windmills, are they? Because they grind wheat into flour. What are they called? Turbine? No, turbine. I don't know. Windmills, wind farm, wind something or other. When I was, 11, 12 years old, I used to cycle to Arundel. I used to go fishing in the river there, which I hated. I caught an eel once. I didn't like that. Dreadful thing. But I used to cycle over to Arundel, walk around Swanbourne, just dump my bike somewhere. No one pinched it. It was different times then, different times altogether. People didn't pinch your bike because you left it by the lake. And I used to walk round there with a friend of mine. We'd climb trees and stuff like that, clamber up the bank, right the way up the top of the hill where you could see the castle wall. When I think back, it seems, it's miles. I don't know how far is Arundel Lake from here? Is it 10 miles? Probably 8, 8 miles. It's a long way to cycle there and back again. But of course, as a kid, I didn't care. And the road, of course, it was one like a country lane. The A27 was just a country lane. Now it's dual carriageway all the way and covered in traffic and lorries and noise. Dreadful. But it was lovely. I could cycle up Titnall Lane, up to the top road, turn left onto the A27, which was just another lane basically, and cycle all the way to Arundel. It was really nice. I also used to cycle up to Washington. That's got to be, is that 10 miles? No, I don't know. We'll say that's 8 miles. I don't know, do I? Look it up on the map. Washington, just north of where I am here. Used to cycle up there to see a girl that I knew, my girlfriend. How old was I then? 13, 14? Used to cycle up there on my bike and back and think nothing of it. I don't think I could cycle to the end of the road now. My knee would hurt, my knee would click, my back would give in, and I don't know. All this getting old thing, it's quite funny. I've been trying to do some exercises for my back. I'm waving around now in my swivel chair, trying to keep twisting my back and bending and all that business. I think it's helping, actually. I read all these things, how to make your knee feel better, how to relieve back pain and all this stuff. I read all the exercises. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. And what do? Nothing. I don't do any exercises. So I've got to make an effort. Do you remember I was talking about various TV programmes such as The Good Life? That was Richard Bryars, wasn't it? Felicity Kendall, Penelope Keith, and was it Richard Edmonton? I can't remember. Anyway, The Good Life, where they dug up their back garden, they dug up the front garden and grew a load of vegetables. They tried to be self-sufficient. Well, Trish and I went for a walk the other day. We went a different way to our normal route, and we passed this this front garden, and no lawn. It's a huge vegetable plot. Now, there's quite a high, well, I say high fence. It was about, 4 or 5 feet, the fence, and there were gates there, so you couldn't just walk in and sort of nick a leek or a cabbage or whatever. I forget what was growing there now. But they had a load of stuff growing there, and all the ground was cultivated. Some of it was fresh, so they'd obviously planted something for the winter. Could be sprouts. And it just reminded us of the programme, The Good Life. And we wondered about their back garden. They'd probably done the same there, because food prices here, every time I listen to the news on the radio or on the television, food prices going up, up, up. And not just by a few pennies, by sort of 50 pence or 80 pence, something like that. Last week it was £1. This week it's £1.40, £1.50. You go again next week, it'll be £1.80. Everything is going up horrendously in price. I just wish we had more land in our back garden, because I would grow a load of vegetables. I did grow a lot. Was it a few years ago? But the cabbage white butterflies came and laid eggs everywhere. Then there's caterpillars munching everything in sight. It was a disaster. I used to enjoy growing vegetables in the old days, and I got the idea from my father, because he had a big garden, huge garden, and half of it was like a massive vegetable plot. You name it, he had it. Broad beans, French beans, runner beans, He had raspberries, gooseberries, black currants, everything. Fantastic. Peas, I used to love, when I was young, sitting in between the rows of peas, pulling them off, opening the shells and eating the fresh peas. Lovely. I got caught though because there's all the shells. What are they called? Not shuttlecocks. That's what you hit with a bat, isn't it? That's badminton, isn't it? They're shucks, aren't they? Yeah, you shell peas, don't you? They're shucks. SHUCKS. Is that right? I don't know what they are. Peas in a pod, anyway. Clocks change, don't they? Next, I believe it's Saturday night, Sunday morning, next weekend. You'll be listening to this Sunday, of course, so the clocks will have changed. Go back an hour, fall back, as in autumn. So it's going to be darker. I don't mind, to be honest, the darker evenings. Sit here and play radios and talk to you, which is rather good. They were talking on the radio the other day about doing away with British summertime. It's daylight saving hours, isn't it, or something, daylight saving. They were saying, why don't we just do away with it and just stick to the ordinary time that used to be called GMT and is now Universal Time Clock. Everything has to change, doesn't it? We've had GMT for like 5,000 years and now it's UTC, Universal Time Clock. But not to worry, I shall stick to GMT. So they change 2 o'clock in the morning, is it, on Sunday, next Sunday? Why 2 o'clock in the morning? What a daft time. Why not midnight? There are stories that people sit up until 2 in the morning to change the clocks at 2 o'clock. And you know, that is actually, not in all cases, but some people do that. That is true. Some people will sit there and at 2 a.m. they put all the clocks back to 1 a.m. Can you believe that? We do it the day before, sort of 6 o'clock in the evening. Then we're totally confused all evening as to what the time is. It's daft changing the time, isn't it? But a lot of places do it. I think you do it in America, don't you? Australia, do you change them? I know France, I think, in the summer, they go 2 hours ahead, I believe, because in the summer they're an hour ahead of us. In the spring, they put their clocks forward 2 hours. We put ours forward 1 hour. So I don't know. You never know what the time is anywhere in the world. Not as people keep changing clocks. We lit the coal fire the other day. In fact, 3 times now we've had the coal fire going. And as Trish said, we've used 1 bag of coal already. And they're not cheap. 3 bags, 10 kilo bags, 3 bags for 23 quid, I think. So I don't know what they were, something like that. But it's not cheap, is it? You couldn't rely on that. We only light it for the sort of aesthetic look. Is that right? For the aesthetics. It looks nice. It's nice sitting by the fire in the evening, the flames flickering, the flickering light on the walls, toasting. We toast things on forks in front of the fire in the winter evenings. That's really nice. We've got a couple of toasting forks hanging up each side of the fireplace, and we either have bread or tea cakes. Who remembers? Well, they still not remembers. They still make tea cakes, toasted tea cakes, crumpets, crumpets by the fire. Wonderful. So the winter's not all cold and doom and gloom. There are some good points about it. I first discovered, or should I say introduced to toasting things in front of the fire on a toasting fork. They're about 2 feet long, weren't they, or a bit more perhaps. At my grandmother's house, I remember one evening they lit the fire earlier in the day. I don't know whether I was staying there or not, but we were sitting by the fire watching television, and my grandmother came in. My grandfather was there. She came in with this plate of bread, cut bread, sliced bread, and a thing of butter, all on this tray, a thing of butter and some knives. And she said, shall we have some toast? And I said, oh, yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I like toast. And I was wondering why she brought the bread into the lounge. It wasn't toasted. Anyway, she sat in her chair by the fire, stuck a bit of bread on the end of this long fork thing, and held it in front of the fire. I thought she'd gone mad. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm toasting the bread. And it was beautiful. I had to go with a slice of bread. It was nice. And he put the butter on. That was the days of real butter, not this pretend stuff we have now, proper real butter, the type that blocks up or furs up your arteries. No, it doesn't, not if you have it in proper amounts. I remember being at home sometime after that, and I said to my mum, have we got a toasting fork? And she said, what do you want that for? I said, well, the fire's going in the lounge. I want to make some toast. And she said, well, we do toast under the grill. I don't think we had a toaster at the time. This was the 50s. She said, we do toast under the grill in the kitchen. I said, no, I want to do it by the fire. She said, "You got that from your grandparents, didn't you?" I said, "Yes." And do you know what? She said, "We have got a toasting fork somewhere." She went out to the shed. She said, "I'm sure I've seen it in the shed somewhere." They'd never used it. Anyway, she came back about a quarter of an hour later, having rummaged around the shed with this brass toasting fork. "I found it," she said. She gave it to me with some bread, and I toasted my own stuff by the fire, my own bits of bread. It was lovely. I remember spreading Marmite on it. I do like Marmite. I know you love it or hate it, but I love Marmite. So that was my first introduction to toasting things by the fire. Happy days. I've just been told off by Tricia. I bought some incense. Did I tell you? I can't remember whether I told you or not. I bought some incense. I rather like that. Some of them smell nice. I've got about 6 different choices, I think. Or is it more? I think it's about 8 different choices. Some are nice and some aren't. I lit one the other day and she said, "That's dreadful. The whole house stinks." I got sent to my room, which is good because this is where all my radios are. I just lit another one about 10 minutes ago. And it's quite nice, this one. It's quite a nice fragrance. Anyway, I got told off again. But it reminded me, in the early days when I was at school, again in the 50s, one of our neighbours, their house always used to have funny smells coming out of it. And I said to my mum one day after school, I got home, and they had their windows open. I could smell this. It was awful. I said to her, "What's that?" She said, "It's incense." And she said, "It's like sticks that you burn and it smokes and it sort of smells the house out." And I said, "Well, it's dreadful." I asked her why they did it. And she said, "Well, some people just like it. Others don't." I don't think I've met anyone that actually likes the smell. There are so many different varieties. Anyway, moving on. I was at school a few days or weeks later, and someone was having a bonfire and the smoke was coming across the playground into our windows. It was summertime. And someone said, "Oh, what's that smell?" And I said, "It's incest." And the teacher looked at me and she said, "What is it?" I said, "It's incest." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, that smell, it's incest. Our neighbours have incest." And she looked rather shocked. She said, "What do you mean that your neighbours have incest? Don't you mean incense?" I said, "Oh, yeah, that's right, incense, same thing." I didn't say the same thing. She said, "You must get that right. It's incense, not incest." I didn't know what incest was. None of the kids laughed. She just looked shocked. And no one knew what I was talking about, which is just as well, really, saying that our neighbours have incest. Anyway, that was my first ever whiff of incense. I must get these words right, mustn't I? Go telling people the wrong thing. Some of it is really nice and some of it is horrible. Some of it, I was reading about it the other day actually, it's meant to be good for meditation and relaxing. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that to Tricia. It annoys her. It does the opposite to meditation. She's just popped out to take her mum home in the car, giving her a lift home. So I've just lit it again to stick the house out. I shall get told off when she gets back. Would you like another complete change of subject? Good, I thought you would. Gravel pits. You know, some places out in the countryside, there are big gravel pits where they just dig and dig and dig, taking out the gravel, which they need for road building and whatever. And they end up with a huge pit. It can be extremely deep, very steep sides. Well, there was one not too far from us, just north of the A27, at the top of Titnor Lane. There you are, look on the map. Have a look on the map. Just north of there. I'm going back to my childhood, my teen days. There was this huge gravel pit. I didn't go too near the edge because of the very steep sides. It was like a cliff, and it must have been, 60, 80 feet deep, just like a cliff. They had actually put a fence around it, but it was only a low fence. You could easily climb over, but I didn't go near it because I didn't like heights. I didn't like looking down there. Many years later, I was out that way having a walk, and the thing had filled with water. The gravel pit had filled with water. And there was a boy there fishing. He was about 12 years old, and he's fishing. The fence, he'd gone over the fence and was sitting there about 2 feet away from the edge of the water. And I said to him, "Get back a bit from there. You're only a couple of feet away." And he looked at me and he said, "Why?" I said, "Because I remember when this pit was empty." I said, "You are about 2 feet away from a sheer cliff that goes down about 80 feet. I said, "Because of the water, you feel safe. You can't see anything. I said, can you swim? He said, no. I said, well, in that case, get back immediately. Had he gone in, I mean, I don't know, it's dreadful. It should have been fenced off properly. And some other some other chap came along. He'd heard this. He was walking nearby with his dog. And he said, he's right, young man, get back from that. It's very deep. And he said, I don't know why you're fishing there anyway, because there are no fish in it. It's too new. There are no fish in it. Around the gravel pit, there were some weeds and beginnings of bushes and foliage and stuff like that. Things were growing. There was some grass growing, but it was far too early for the gravel pit to have fish in it. It had only been full of water for I don't know how long, but not long enough. Fish and frogs and tadpoles and all that lot would come later on, rather like Lanzarote, really. Well, no, you can't compare Lanzarote to a gravel pit, can you? What I mean is, Lanzarote, we went there for a holiday. With all due respect to the Spanish and that, I don't like Lanzarote. It's just a volcano. It's just the top of a sort of volcanic rock thing. There's no grass, there's no trees, there's no bushes. Wait a million years or so, and it'll probably be very nice with grass, bushes, trees and all that lot, but it's going to take another million years, or perhaps 500,000 years. A bit like the gravel pit. That won't take a million years. I doubt it'll be there in a million years, but it does need a few years to get the fish in there and the other wildlife and stuff. You need weeds in the lake, which it would become, wouldn't it, a lake, and all that sort of thing for the fish to feed on. It takes years. Talking of the gravel pit north of the A27, top of Titnall Lane, if you, not now, it's all changed, but if you got to the top of Titnall Lane, cross the A27, which was just a lane, a country lane, dual carriageway now, go into the woods, there was a gate, go into the woods, that was Clapham Woods on the left. You can walk through there, that's Clapham Woods, which is infamous for ghosts and aliens and hauntings and all sorts of dreadful things. Dogs used to disappear. People would take the dog out for a walk, let it off its lead, off it goes, disappeared. A bit like the Bermuda Triangle for dogs. It was on the TV, it had a lot of news coverage. I'm going back decades. I just thought I'd chuck that in out of interest. Look it up, Clapham Woods, as in Clapham, Clapham Woods, West Sussex. There was so much to explore in the old days when I was a boy in the 50s. No, seriously, there was so much to explore. The gravel pit, which was empty at the time, Clapham Woods, Somerset Pond or Somerset Lake, that was south of the A27, owned by Mr. Somerset, who owned a lot of land around there. There was a huge lake, Somerset Lake, I think it was called. Then there was Somerset Pond, woods everywhere. Of course, I've told you this before, haven't I, with notices. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Whenever it said that anywhere in the woods, I used to think, and my friends, we'd think, what's in there then? Why can't we go in there? It's just ordinary woods. So we would climb over the barbed wire fence or whatever it was, past the notice, trespassers will be prosecuted, and we'd go and have a look. We'd poke around. There was never anything in there. I suppose it was just private woods, private land, and they didn't want a load of kids like us lot poking around in there. But there was so much to explore, as I've said before, air raid shelters and farms, all sorts of things. Old farm machinery. You get some rusty old farm machinery dumped near a field somewhere, you know. We climb all over it and muck about and take bits off it if we could. It was great. I think that's what kids miss today. No, that's wrong. They don't miss it because you don't miss what you've never had. But I think that's what kids would really enjoy today. If you said, look, there's a big farm there. There's a pond and there's lakes and there's newts and fish and frog spawn and whatever, sticklebacks. There's farm machinery. Go and muck about on that. There's an electric fence, you know, you can trick your friends into getting electric shocks from that. It was just all good fun. We were always busy. Summer holidays at school, always busy, collecting things, doing things. I don't know what the kids do now. Well, I do. They sit there on their mobile phone, don't they? Going, dit, 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 dit. I don't know what they're doing. Texting each other, are they? WhatsApping each other or whatever they do. I don't know. Surely that's boring in comparison to what we did. Well, I say we, if you're old like me, when we were kids. Oh, well, as I said, you don't miss what you haven't had, I suppose, which is a great shame. They should experience these things. They should know what goes on farms and where pigs come from. Where does bacon come from? Sainsbury's supermarket. No. I don't know. That's funny. I think that was a genuine thing in school, wasn't it? I think the teacher said to the class, where does bacon come from? And they said the supermarket. It's very windy today. I don't know what's going on. The Met Office did say that there would be a lot of wind and it could lead to some destruction of things falling down, roof tiles flying off, trees falling down. It is very, very strong from the west. The sun's out and it is quite cold. It's about 11 or 12 out there. What's that in Fahrenheit? Double it and add 30, about 54, is it? It's now Friday, and talking of the temperature, 5 degrees C, that's 40 Fahrenheit, isn't it? 40-ish. 7 o'clock in the morning. That is a bit chilly out there. We're certainly getting towards winter. Beautiful blue sky again though, and sunshine, bit of a breeze from the west. Gwen, nice to hear from you. You're in North Wales. I stayed in Llandudno once for about 3 months. Nice up there. I don't know where you are, Gwen, but you just say North Wales. She says, have you seen that advert about about mattresses? I've seen too many adverts about mattresses. Stone the crows, don't they go on? This one, I have seen it. It's got smart, cool technology, she says. I thought you'd like that, Ray. I do. What is smart, cool technology? It's not technology, is it? Smart, cool. I mean, they think we're idiots, don't they? They really do think we're idiots. I don't understand these people at all. Who writes these adverts? Some kind of... I mustn't say that. Let's stick to the word idiot. I think I'm safer there. Some kind of idiot. Smart, cool technology. My foot. Do you remember some time ago, a year ago or more, I moaned about that vacuum cleaner with direct floor engagement? What does that mean? Direct floor engagement? Well, of course the thing's directly on the floor. You can't vacuum the carpet if you've got the vacuum cleaner 2 feet in the air, can you? Direct floor engagement. I don't know. Perhaps I should have gone into advertising, writing strap lines and blurb and stuff. Hello, John. Nice to hear from you. Yes, I was talking about Halloween, wasn't I? He says that what he does remember back in the old days is duck apple. So you've got an apple and it's either swinging on a piece of string, like in the garden from the washing line, or in the house, I suppose, I don't know, from a door frame or something. And you have to try and get it with your teeth. You have to try and eat it or something. Or the apple or apples was in a bowl of water. So you've got this bowl of water on the table with an apple or several apples in it, and you have to, without using your hands, just your mouth, you have to get them out of the bowl. I do remember that. I found it most frustrating, especially the one hanging on a bit of string, John. It's going round and round, bashing you on the head. And I do remember thinking, what sort of game is this? It's ridiculous. But yeah, I do remember that. Thanks for that, John. There were some daft games around when I was a child. One of the worst games was Tiddlywinks. That really was frustrating, annoying. Drove you around the bend, these stupid little coloured counters, and then you get a larger counter and you have to flick the little ones on the carpet, on the floor. You have to flick them so they fly through the air and land in an egg cup. There is no way you can get Tiddlywinks into an egg cup by doing it like that, flicking them on the carpet. Absolutely stupid game. I've never known such a stupid game. Something else which I used to play quite a bit, but it was rather pointless. Snakes and ladders. You're going up the board, okay, you're going up the board, nearly at the top, all the way down a ladder. Oh no, down the snake, wasn't it? Yeah, all the way down the snake. So you start again. All up the ladder, down the snake. I mean, what's the point? Ridiculous. My grandparents, they had a compendium of games, and it was very old actually. It must have been from the 30s. Beautiful condition in this big box, compendium of games. I don't know what happened to that, but it must be worth a few bob now, wherever it is. I don't know, it's disappeared. But that must be worth quite a lot of money now, something like that from the 30s. They had also a huge train set, the very wide, what were they about? The lines, the rails, must have been at least 2 inches apart, with a third rail in the middle for the pickup contact on the engine. It was a huge setup. They had trucks and carriages, a snowplough, a Fife's banana wagon. That was good. All this rolling stock, the transformer, crossing gates, signals. The signals lit up. You know, a little bulb, tiny little bulb in the signal thing that lit up. It was amazing layout. It wasn't on a board or anything. You had to put it all together on the floor. I think my father had that in the end, and I've got an idea. Yes, he took it to auction somewhere. Was it not Christie's? I don't know. He took it to a fairly well-known auction. I don't know what he got for it. But it's a shame because stuff like that, it would have been nice to keep. Just carry on passing it down over the decades, over the generations. But that's all gone now. There was a beautiful rocking horse that my grandparents had as well. Now, I ended up with that as a child. Dobbin, I called him. The old-fashioned, like 20s, 1930s, big wooden rocking horse and a huge stand, and it rocks on these sort of metal hanger things. Really valuable these days, something like that. And it was in beautiful condition. His mane was all there, all the hair was there, his tail was there, probably real horsehair back in those days. And it had the saddle, the reins, everything. That would have been worth a fortune these days. I don't know where that went. That disappeared. Just going back to the train set, there was a tunnel, there were stations, very, very detailed stations with lights in the waiting room, a signal box or a couple of signal boxes with lights in them. It really was a beautiful train set. You really needed somewhere, well, like a loft, a boarded attic, to lay it all out permanently. There were points, what do they call them in America, crossovers, are they, or something? Engine sheds. I'm just trying to think back, all the different things. Even the crossing gates had little lights on the red paraffin lamps on the gates in the old days. That lit up as well. Lots of people, lots of countryside things, people and bushes and trees. When it was all laid out properly, it really did look fantastic. It's a shame. That would have been nice. Not to sell. I wouldn't have wanted it now to sell it. I would want it just to keep it and pass it on. Unless I suppose you get to a ripe old age, you've got no one to pass it on to, then okay, sell it and someone else can appreciate it. No, you don't call the points crossovers in America. They're switches, aren't they? I think you call them switches. It's brought back a lot of memories picturing that train set. I remember the sparks on the rails. I think it was 20 volts AC for those that want to take an interest in the technical side of it. Transformer with a speed controller on it. 20 volts AC, I'm pretty sure it was. And then everything ran from other terminals on the back of the transformer, all the lighting and things. Would have been lovely to have kept that. My grandparents also had a grandfather clock, a very old grandfather clock. It worked, but unfortunately my grandfather ruined it. He had a tube, I think it was called a plastic wood. You squirt it out of this tube, and where any wood is scratched or dented, chipped, bits missing, you rub in this plastic wood. Anyway, he totally ruined the clock. He got inside it, the weights, the two huge brass weights on the wires and the pulleys. He ruined those. I don't know what happened. I think the brass split, and I don't know what he did to it. He basically ruined the clock over the decades that he had it. And my father sold that. Didn't get much for it. I remember he said to me that the auction chap looked at it, and he said, well, unfortunately, it's been wrecked, which it had. I don't know. He had a bicycle, my grandfather. He had a bicycle with about 15,000 lights on it. Well, not quite 15,000. Loads of lights on the front, red lights all over the back. He was eccentric. He was balmy. I've said he's balmy before, but he was totally eccentric. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that's where I got it from. You're probably right, because I'm balmy. I must be balmy, sitting here for hours on end talking into a microphone. Mind you, you're all balmy because you listen to me. Perhaps we're all mad. Happy days. I was never really one for board games back in the old days. There was Ludo. Do you remember Ludo? That wasn't too bad. Snakes and ladders. Monopoly, of course. Monopoly, everyone dreads playing Monopoly, don't they? If you've got kids, let's play Monopoly, Mum. Come on, Dad, we're playing Monopoly. Oh, goodness me, do I have to? Deliberately lose. I used to do that with the kids. Deliberately lose. Look, Dad, you could have got me. You didn't charge me rent for landing there. Oh, didn't I? Oh, never mind. Deliberately not charge people rent for landing on your hotels and things. And then, oh, look, I've run out of money. What a shame. You lot carry on. I'll go and put the kettle on. Yes, I've escaped. Drafts. Did you ever play drafts? That was quite good. The only trouble was, normally, it wasn't me. My opponent would just go and take all my drafts. He'd just bounce over them all, jump over them all. Oh, okay. Oh, I've lost. Chess was interesting, But it depends on your age. I found it rather boring. After about half an hour, I'm thinking, oh, can't we end this? Can I go out and play now? Can I go in the garden and dig a hole or something? I do like Cluedo. Trish and I play Cluedo with the kids, the grandkids sometimes. Or we used to. They're getting a bit old for that now. Cluedo is quite good fun. I like that. I don't know whether we had that as a child. Do we have Cluedo? You oldies out there listening, did we have Cluedo? When did that come out? Then there were card games, of course. I didn't get on with card games, really. The only one I was any good at was Snap, and that was boring. I think I found a lot of this stuff boring because I wasn't an indoor type person. I was a shed type person, pulling radios to bits, or a woods type person, out in the woods, out in the countryside, not sitting in the lounge with the family. This is when I was a child, playing board games and things. It's boring, it's a lovely summer's day. Why are we all sitting here playing board games? The woods are calling me. There are ponds over there. There are sticklebacks, frogs and frog spawn. What am I doing here? Playing a stupid board game. Of course, as I got into my teens, mid-teens, I was working, radio and TV workshop, and my pastime then was building pirate radio transmitters, listening on shortwave radio, going over to the woods and putting up aerials and pirating myself, or tracking down pirate stations. I used to enjoy doing that. Later on, when I had a car, I'd drive around tracking down local pirate radio stations. I remember driving down a road once in Hove, not far from here, Hove actually, and I saw this lad, sort of early 20s. He's looking up and down the road suspiciously. He looked dead suspicious. And behind him, in this bit of wasteland, was an aerial going from one house to another. And I thought, oh, I found it. So I pulled up and I said, hiya. And he looked at me and he said, oh, are you the GPO? Because it was the GPO, the General Post Office then. I said, no, I've just tracked you down. But he'd already waved to his friend somehow. They did some, not semaphore, but well, sort of, but with your hands. And the transmitter went off. His friend turned it off. So I said, well, it's gone on the car radio. It's gone. And he said, well, I signalled to them to turn it off. Anyway, they turned it back on again. But I used to enjoy tracking down the pirate radio stations. The best thing, though, was in the woods myself, with wires up in the trees, aerials and stuff like that, playing music from a cassette tape recorder on medium wave, the AM band. They were great days. I used to love that. It's strange how talking about the past, talking about the 50s, 60s, 70s, other memories come back. I might be talking about, say, when I was on a farm, poking about on a pond looking for sticklebacks, and that reminds me of something else. This is why I'm always coming out with different things that I've forgotten to mention before, or I've forgotten even happened. It's lovely looking back like that. In a way, it's quite therapeutic, to be honest, thinking back to childhood days. Only the good bits, not school, as the bad bits, but the summer holidays, going over to the farm, going over to the woods, mucking about in the pond. There was one pond, Titnor Pond it was called. You remember I mentioned Titnor Lane earlier? Well, Titnor Pond, that's Titnore, I believe, if you want to look it up, Titnor Lane. There was this pond. It wasn't that big. It was only about, 15 feet across, I suppose. But rumour had it that in the middle of this pond, there was a well, an uncovered well. Now, the well would be, 40, 50 feet deep? If there's no cover over it, because kids used to wade out there in their Wellingtons. It wasn't very deep, the pond. And when we heard this rumour, we didn't do that anymore. I used to go out in my Wellingtons into the pond, because obviously if you get to the well and you fall down there, well, you're a goner, aren't you? A goner. Even someone that could swim, if they had gone down the well, they might have had a job to come back out again. I don't know whether that's true. The pond's gone now, unfortunately. We were up there the other day. No, we weren't. We were up there last year getting some grass, some turf. There's a grass place up there where you can buy turf. And I noticed then that there was no pond. They'd filled it all in. But I never did find out about that well. Was it just a rumour? Or was there really a well there with the top uncovered? I heard something on the radio the other day that took me back. It took me back years, decades in fact. It was just amazing to hear it. You don't hear this sort of stuff anymore. What do you think of this? Do you remember that? Telstar by the Tornadoes. That reminds me of pirate radio stations. I had a radio station called Radio Telstar, and of course that was my theme music. You're listening to Radio Telstar transmitting 199 metres in the medium wave band. I was absolutely hopeless as a DJ, but I just loved it. Sitting in my shed, in my teens this is, sitting in my shed on a Sunday morning, the transmitter's fired up, the valves are glowing, the tubes, they're glowing. I've got the tape deck, I've got the record deck, the microphone, the mixer. And there I am, Radio Telstar, 199 metres in the medium wave band. Wonderful, really happy days. I mean, it was just fantastic. I don't know what it was. I remember a GPO, that was the General Post Office. They were responsible for catching pirates in those days. I remember talking to a GPO chap. I was in GWM Radio in Worthing, that's an army surplus store. I was poking about in there for bits to build a transmitter. And the GPO chap was there, and we just got talking, and he said, "Why do you do it? Why do you and the others do it?" I mean, he knew it was me. He said, "I don't understand, it's illegal. You could end up going to court, a hefty fine, your equipment confiscated. Why do you do it?" And I said, "Because it's just fantastic. It's proper music." There was no proper music back then. Radio 1 came out. Was that in 67, BBC Radio 1? That was rubbish. The pirates in the North Sea, Radio Caroline, Radio London, they'd all but gone. And it was just amazing. People listened as well on a Sunday. People at home listened. They tuned their transistor radios into their local pirate station. I think it's something in the blood. I mean, I've got all my music. I've got the microphone. I've got the mixer. I've got a couple of transmitters here. I've only got to take the output from the mixer into the transmitter, turn it on, and I'm on the air. I'm DJing and playing music. Would I do that though? No. Certainly not. I won't do that because I don't want to get busted, have my equipment confiscated, and they might take my mixer and my microphone, then I can't talk to you anymore. I might be in prison. Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? Where am I now? For our quiz, where am I now? And you hear clanking prison doors and people shouting. I did all that in my teens and 20s, so it was all good fun then. But there are a few pirate stations around now, but I don't think I'll get involved with that anymore. Unfortunately, I couldn't play a great deal of Telstar to you because there's copyright, because it's picked up by YouTube and Podbean and the rest of it. Then they say, "Oh, that's copyright, you can't do that." But that is a great song, isn't it? That's lovely, isn't it? I really like the old stuff. Happy days. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? By the way, it's now Saturday morning. Time is 7:30. Beautiful day out there again. Very cold. It's only about 6 degrees centigrade. Bit chilly, no wind. Beautiful blue sky again, though. Sunshine. A lovely day for a walk. I might have to do that later. Trish and I perhaps go for a walk around the local streets, spying on people's front gardens to see what they're up to. I've still got some more bulbs to plant. I keep saying that, don't I? I must do that today. The clocks change tonight or tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. I remember as a child the clocks changing and it didn't affect me. I remember people saying, "Oh, we've gained an extra hour's sleep," or we lose an hour's sleep. And I used to think, what are they talking about? I just went to bed, went to sleep and woke up as normal. As I got older, of course, I realised that I didn't have to go to work for another hour. Or I had to go to work an hour early, depending on where I was in the year, of course. Trish said to me this morning, "Extra hour's sleep tomorrow." And I said, no, all it means is instead of waking up at 4:30 tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, I shall wake up at 3:30, according to the clock anyway. So I don't gain an hour's sleep or lose an hour's sleep. It's just the same amount of sleep to me. It's just that the clock says different things. We've had loads of fireworks going off in the evenings. I don't know what's happening. It's not even firework night. That's November the 5th. We've had fireworks being set off for at least a week, if not more than a week. Some of them are massive rockets and things screaming in the night. Well, not in the night, sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Not very good, really, because, children are asleep, babies are asleep. It's all right on bonfire night. I don't know why people have to do it all year round. Well, it seems that it's all year round. New Year's Eve. Oh, let's set off all the fireworks. Someone's birthday. Let's set off the fireworks. I don't know how they afford it. They cost a fortune these days. When I used to go over the local sweet shop when I was, 12 years old, buy penny bangers and rockets and Roman candles, jumping jacks and all these things. You could get a load of stuff for 2 bob, a couple of shillings. It was great. Now you need a couple of £100. I do remember when big rockets started becoming expensive, because I used to like the rockets. I'd go and buy a rocket and set it off in the garden. I don't know what they cost, £0.50 or something. Then they went up and up. They're like a pound, then £2, then £5. And I do remember seeing a nice rocket. I can't remember when this was, not when I was a child. It was £15. Stone the crows for a rocket, £15. It was a huge thing, admittedly. They're probably more than that now. As I said, it's Saturday. Trisha's out tonight with her mum and her sister. I don't know where they're going, to listen to some noise somewhere. So I am home alone. I shall be playing radios. I shall be doing some recording, probably making a video or something. I like making videos. Take advantage of the peace and quiet. Just this second had an email come in from Annika. Hello, Annika. Nice name, reminds me of Annika Rice. Do you remember that? Annika Rice used to go around in a helicopter doing, was it treasure hunt? I don't know what it was now. That was quite good. I enjoyed that programme. Crikey, that must be going back to the 70s. Annika Rice, I think it was called Treasure Hunt. Anyway, I digress. Annika, lovely to hear from you. She says, how old were you when your parents got their first television set? I can remember that. I was 4, because it was 1956. I was 4 years old, and I remember this TV being delivered to our house. I don't know whether my parents rented it or bought it. An aerial was put up on the roof, and all we had on that telly, it was a horrible thing. It was BBC. That's all we had. It wasn't even called BBC One then, because there was only BBC. But it was that year, in 1956, Annika, that ITV started. ITV, now we didn't have ITV. Anyway, we moved, I think in 1957, we moved to a new bungalow. And I remember my dad making an ITV aerial. You can do that in the old days. Well, you could do it now. A bit of wood, all the elements on it and all that business. He got the instructions all written out on paper. And the telly, he bought another telly. This telly had BBC and ITV. I remember that, and his aerial worked. He was in the loft with this aerial thing he'd made, trying to point it in the right direction, and it was good. On the chimney of the bungalow, we had the BBC aerial. The big H, do you remember the big H shape aerial? The letter H. Then the letter X, do you remember the X aerials? I remember those. There are still 1 or 2 around. In fact, I think people have been told don't remove them because they are, I don't know, heritage or whatever they are, on certain buildings, that is. So yes, Annika, we had a telly in 1956. Our first colour television was when I first went to work. I said to the boss, my dad wants to buy a coloured telly. And he said, right, we'll do a special, staff discount type price. And it was delivered. That was 1967. That was delivered to the bungalow. Mum, Dad, us 4 kids. Well, kids, I was, 16 then. And we're all sitting there that evening watching telly. And, of course, a lot of stuff was still in black and white. And every now and then the presenter would come on, don't miss the film tonight. At 8 o'clock, it's in colour. Wow, it's in colour. But, of course, everything then went to colour in the end. And I remember, you probably remember this if you're in Britain. Do you remember the snooker match on telly? The chap talking about it, he said, for those of you watching in black and white, the blue ball is behind the yellow. Something like that. That's not verbatim, but something like that. So that didn't really help, did it? For those of you watching in black and white, you haven't got a clue what colour the balls are. When I went to America, Los Angeles in 1975, I remember the TV, there were loads of channels. And on AM, medium wave band, on the radio, you tune around, there's station after station, all playing different music. I was really impressed, because when I got back to England, I'm tuning around our radio. Well, this is boring. It really was boring. It still is boring. The radio stations are rubbish. TV's rubbish. Everything is rubbish. Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. What have you been up to? When did you get your first telly? What do you think of the radio stations we've got today in Britain? Rubbish. I think it's time for another Where Am I? Not what have I got in my hand, but where am I? To be fair, I don't think you'll ever get that. Where am I? What am I doing? Well, it wasn't me. It certainly wasn't me doing that. There we are. That was a bit more of a clue. You might get it from that one. But what was I doing, or what was the person doing? When you've discovered where the place is, you might be able to guess. Okay, enough of that. Enough of that nonsense. I think it's time for a cup of coffee. No, it's not. We've only got 10 minutes to go. Hope you've enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoy the podcast episodes as much as I enjoy recording them. I really do love sitting here, chatting away to you. You might think, well, that's a bit strange, sitting on your own in a room, talking into a microphone. Talking to yourself, basically. Well, I'm not. I don't feel that. I feel that you're listening live. You know, I feel that you're here with me. We could be in a pub with a chink of glasses going on. Wonderful. I'll have a half. No, I won't. I'll have a pint. Chatting away in the pub. That was nice, wasn't it? I used to enjoy that. In the evenings, go to the pub, meet people there, you know. You'd perhaps all stand at the bar or sit around a table, all chatting about things. Oh, have you heard what the government are doing now? And what about old so-and-so? Oh, dear, yeah, I know, it's awful, isn't it? And what about that new law they're bringing out? Well, that's dreadful. Just chatting away, putting the world to rights. I used to love all that. And I do feel, as I said, I do feel when I'm chatting to you now, that we could all be in a pub. Well, there'd be quite a few of us. It would have to be a big pub with a few hundred listeners. We'd have to be in a huge pub. But no, you know what I mean. I just imagine that I'm in a pub with all my listeners, all my friends, and we're having a good old chat. Do any of you go to a pub anymore? Do you go and just have a chat? Do all the men go and gather on a Sunday lunchtime, have a chat, then go home to have Sunday lunch, Sunday dinner? Or has that tradition gone? There are no traditions left. Well, very few. They're all disappearing, aren't they? Everything's disappearing. Christmas Eve was always good in the pub. When I was young, this is in my teens, go to the pub on a Christmas Eve. Oh, it was fantastic. They had all the decorations up, the tree. The pub was absolutely packed. It's 6 deep at the bar, you know, trying to get a drink. Luckily, if you're a local, a regular, as I was, they'd see me. I'd hold up my empty glass and one of the staff would just point to the end of the bar. I'd go round there and I'd get my beer straight away without having to try and push through the crowd, or sometimes people would pass a pint of beer towards the back of us all, you know, 6 deep, and there's this glass of beer in the air being passed back, slopping everywhere, slopping all over people. The recipient, in the end, he might get half a pint by the time it got to him. But that was great, Christmas Eve. I never liked New Year's Eve. Do you do New Year's Eve? We're not doing anything this year. Again, we don't do New Year's Eve. I shouldn't be talking about Christmas and New Year's Eve, should I? It's only, what is the date? You'll be listening to this tomorrow, 26th of October. We're coming up to November, aren't we? Clocks changing, bonfire night coming. I think it depends how you look at it. You can either look at the winter as doom and gloom. Oh, it's cold, it's horrible, it's dark. Or, as I've said before, sit in front of the coal fire, toasting your crumpets. Nothing like a bit of toasted crumpet to keep you going. Last night, I had a glass of port. In fact, I had 2 glasses of port and lemon. Trish had she had a raspberry flavoured gin. Do you like all these flavoured gins? I don't like gin. I don't like spirits at all. Whiskey, vodka, gin, any of it. I don't like it. But she had this raspberry flavoured gin, which she rather likes. And I had my port and lemon, which was rather nice. The weather forecast did say it was going to be cold. I feel a bit chilly. It's 19 degrees in here. I suppose that's not too cold, is it? I should put a coat on. In the old days when I was a boy, if I said to my mum, I'm cold, she'd say, well, put another pullover on, put a cardigan on, put your coat on, where's your scarf? And this is indoors. Scarf? Scarf indoors? I used to poke the fire up. We had a gas poker. Who remembers a gas poker? By the fireplace there was a gas point with a little tap. Then you got this red rubber hose that goes to a poker thing. Basically it was a metal tube full of holes. It sounds lethal, doesn't it? Dangerous. You turn the gas on, then with a box of matches, you hold the flame under this poker thing. Woof, it goes. It all lights up. And you're holding this thing in your hand, and there's flames coming out of all these holes. And what you do is stuff it into the coal. Quite an expensive way, actually, of lighting the fire. Best to use newspaper and kindling wood, things like that. But my mum and dad had this poker thing. And I remember lighting it, poking it into the coal. I don't think I was very young, I knew what I was doing. I also had a Bunsen burner, which was quite handy because that had a red rubber hose on it. And what I used to do is put the Bunsen burner in the grate in the fireplace and then set fire to it with a match, stick it on the gas tap. And I'd get glass rods. You could buy glass rods from the chemist shop in those days, various glass things. And I'd try and do a bit of glass work, making animals. And it was, the glass is glowing red hot. I mean, if that had gone on my hand, it would be a serious burn. But that was kids back then. That's what kids did. The old Bunsen burner going, got your glass tube or your glass rod over it, and it goes red, orange, and then sort of red, and it sags, the glass all melts, and you could make shapes. And it was fantastic fun. I don't suppose kids do that. Well, there are no Bunsen burners now. You don't get gas taps in the lounge. You don't get bits of glass rods sold from your local chemist or pharmacy, do you? I know I keep saying it, but everything's gone. Everything's disappearing. We're going to have digital, ID cards next. If you go to the chemist, can I buy a piece of glass rod? Show me your ID. Well, I haven't got any ID. Well, we haven't got any glass rod then. Get out. I don't know. Anyway, listen, we're coming up to the end. Don't forget to email me, raiserants@protonmail.com. Have a look on the web page as well, raiserants.info. What have I added there? I added some stuff. I think I put a video on. Oh, Trish went for another walk along Worthing seafront. So at some stage, possibly today, I don't know when, I'm going to put that on the web page as well, raiserants.info. It's a walk along Worthing seafront, so you can see all the seafront shops. Well, no, not shops. Hotels. No, they're not hotels. What's left down there? Nothing. The seafront buildings, whatever they are, just sort of rubbish. I hate the town. You know that, don't you? Oh, talking of toasting things in front of the fire, Tricia is making some tea cakes. They're buns, aren't they? They're like buns. She made 6. No, she made 8 the other day. They've all gone. No, it wasn't me. She gives stuff away. Oh, hello, mother, she says. Have some tea cakes. Oh, hello, daughter. Have some tea cakes. Whoever pops round, they get tea cakes. If I'm lucky, I get 1 or 2. Anyway, she's making another batch today. And I have said hide them. Hide them. I've just seen some. I don't know where they come from. I was in the dining room and we've got this sort of big wooden cabinet. Thank you, North Carolina son, for the big wooden cabinet. Before he moved to North Carolina, he gave us a load of furniture. Really nice. We've got a long pine dressing table type thing and a cabinet, all sorts of things. Anyway, I digress. On top of the cabinet, behind the lamp, there are 2 bags full of cakes, buns, not cakes, tea cakes, whatever they are. 2 bags. I'm going to have to ask what that's all about. They're probably waiting to be collected by someone. Anyway, she's making another batch today. So I think what we will do is light the fire later on, or maybe tomorrow, get our toasting forks out and some real butter, if we've got any real butter, and have a bit of a feast. With, of course, a couple of glasses of port and lemon. Beautiful, dark outside, sitting by the fire. Anyway, on that note, have a good week. I shall see you on Wednesday, of course, with a midweek message. Let me know what you've been up to. raiserants@protonmail.com. Be good, be bad. If you're bad, don't get caught. I bet you're hungry now, thinking, oh, toasted tea cakes. I bet you're getting hungry. I wonder what time of day it is where you are, because this is listened to around the world, isn't it? There's Rob in Australia, and there's Amy and everyone else in America, Seattle and everywhere. Son in North Carolina. There's people everywhere, so you'll be listening all different times of the day. Thanks for listening as always. Love your company. Take care. Bye-bye for now.